You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
WCYTV.
Here on the Daily Signal.
Hey, welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast and a very fine Thursday evening to all of you out there as the Federal Department of Education begins its long last lap, at least I pray, as have really probably tied with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms for being the most useless and yet simultaneously damaging federal agency that we've got. So we'll dispel a lot of myths. There's actually a really great question that was in the comments before the show that I wanted to tackle, just right away. And again, a huge thanks to those over in the comments on the stream over on youtube.com/Daily Signal. That's my personal favorite place. If you're joining us on the radio, consider watching us over there. Please don't while you're driving. That's not something that we like to encourage over here. So what does it mean for the President of the United States to sign an executive order scaling back the Department of Education? Well, the Congress of the United States has brought into being the funding apparatus and core directives for the Department of Education after it was created by an executive order. So we used to have an Office of Education. The Office of Education coordinated education statistics, worked with the census team for about 110 years as well, and kept an eye on how states were progressing and basically played a little bit of telephone. I hear this state's doing something, maybe, hey, Commonwealth over here, would you like to try this? That's excellent. And it was kind of a liaison office. Then Jimmy Carter decided that what we really needed was the government to fix American education. And so, knowing Jimmy Carter, he did the thing that made it worse. And now, after decades of not improving one single facet in education at all, not one, there is not one thing the Department of Education has made any kind of improvement on whatsoever. I say that as a former teacher and a former administrator who did an extensive study while I was in graduate school, before I was really writing politically, on effects the Department of Education had on curriculum around the country. And what I found in my long, winding road of study was that the federal government has been recommending curriculum to schools for years, and pedagogy, meaning how you teach the curriculum, and has tied funding to it, saying, hey, if you want this funding, you better teach this way and you better teach this stuff. But we've never found anything in those suggested curricula or those pedagogical guidelines that have improved student learning outcomes, which means this. Remember the food pyramid? You know what, we got to get the radio board operator producer in here. Allison, do you remember the food pyramid?
Oh, yes.
And what was at the very bottom, the biggest section of the food pyramid?
Oh, crap, Tony. It was a bread?
It was bread. Yeah, I know. You almost want to shut it out of your mind because now that we know more about nutrition than we did, in the 90s, again, huge shocker that we've made such strides in what feels like something that should be 10 years ago, although now the beginning of the 90s is getting a little closer to 40 years ago. There was grains and carbs. And Allison, I don't know if you know this right now, but if you wanted to gain weight, if you wanted to put on the pounds, and not in a healthy way, what would you eat the most of these days?
Ooh, I would say probably bread and grains.
So
Carbs.
What you're telling me is the government's recommendation, the food pyramid, where they said you need a ton of bread and grains per day, is also a really great way to be unhealthy. Yeah, it turns out the federal government knows very little about nutrition. Guess what? The federal government didn't know anything about education at the federal level either, yet they made that their standard. And then Congress codified this executive agency into being and started throwing cash at it, as though if you just throw a little more money at it, then presto, it'll fix the education system in this country. Did that help anything? No, not whatsoever. So President Trump today walked through a little bit of a campaign promise that he made during the presidential campaign that has been clamored for by a lot of conservative, independent, libertarian-leaning agencies for years. And I honestly think that as far as Trump is concerned, this is probably one of his best issues on the cultural side.
After 45 years, the United States spends more money on education by far than any other country, and spends likewise by far more money per pupil than any country, and it's not even close. But yet we rank near the bottom of the list in terms of success. It's an amazing stat. Those are two stats you don't want. The most money spent per pupil, and you're at the bottom of the list. And that's where we are, like it or not. And we've been there for a long time. 70% of eighth graders are not proficient in either reading or in math. 70%. 40% of fourth graders lack even basic reading skills, can't read. Students in our public elementary and middle schools score worse in reading today than when the department opened, by a lot. In Baltimore, 40% of the high schools have 0 students who can do basic mathematics. Not even the very simplest of mathematics. I said, give me your definition of basic. And they're talking about like adding a few numbers together. Despite these breathtaking failures, the department's discretionary budget has exploded by 600%.
Let's talk about terms here for a second, because a lot of people have suddenly become constitutional experts in the last couple of days. So if you're going to pony up to the table as an expert, then at least my job as a pundit could actually be to equip you with the real words and what they mean so that we can start making a bit of a difference in conversations. You know, if you're going to pony up to the table and start swinging at the big leagues, then at least I ought to give you a good enough bat to swing with. Discretionary spending is a part of the budget that goes to federal agencies to spend how they choose, which means it's the president's budget to spend how he chooses. Executive agencies, under Article 2 of the Constitution, are under the explicit service of the President of the United States. This is why in Republican, in Democrat, in Whig, in Federalist administrations throughout the entire history of these United States, you have had cabinet secretaries that have always said, quote, I serve at the pleasure of the President of the United States, end quote. It is, by the way, what defines a strong difference between the vice president and the rest of the cabinet, by the way, but that's another topic for another time. So when the President of the United States scales back the Department of Education, he's scaling back how discretionary spending is done. In the Department of Education right now, the bulk of this is done through strings attached packages that go to schools. It's about 10% of your local school's budget. Maybe. Depends on the district because you don't have to take federal funding. And then the other big, massive chunk of chunks goes to grant programs. Grant programs for anything and everything. Now, of my 2 master's degrees that I got from Ball State, my favorite was my curriculum development degree. And that's because I'm really passionate, I guess I used to be, about why people learned and thought in certain ways. What media, what images, what's the psychology behind learning something? It's probably why I like broadcasting, is I'm just a teacher. At least that's what I tell myself in a different role. The craziest grant proposals I'd ever heard in my life, sent directly to the Department of Education, were from some of my cohorts in my graduating class, including one, and I've mentioned this on the show before, in which a person sent in a study that had to do with putting condoms, prophylactics, on cow udders. It was insane. And by the way, someone said, oh, that's probably because of like udder infections or something. No, had nothing to do with that at all. It was actually a question about sex education and stimulation was the concern of the study. Had nothing to do with giving a cow or a goat the echinacea flower so that an udder infection cleared up. Anywho, what does this have to do with unions? Why are teachers' unions so upset about this? Because teachers' unions held a massive amount of sway over the Department of Education and what the standards were for public education. Through the Federal Department of Education, teachers' unions still had a pretty sizable grip on even states that had like right-to-work laws, where you don't have to be a member of a teachers' union in order to teach at a school. Teachers' unions are concerned with the teacher, not with the student. Whenever you have a service-based industry in which there is an end client who has provided a service, that is a terrible, 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 terrible time to have a union. Unions in general are bad for productivity, they're bad for the business, and they're bad for the client. They're also bad for the worker because it turns out that unions are very bad at negotiating, and blanket sweep negotiation tactics over a long term tend to screw over those who are a member of the organization. That's why spot negotiation is typically better. We'll get into some of the response in a bit over on the live stream side. We'll catch the radio crew here soon. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. So the teachers' unions now are just in particular shambles. Randi Weingarten, head of the second largest teachers union in the country, she's been mad. She's been angry. This is a woman who was caught working undercover with the CDC, ordering the Department of Education with Miguel Cardona and the CDC to continue keeping schools shut down, though studies said it was better for kids during COVID to be exposed to COVID and to be in school. The learning loss was too great of a concern. Randi Weingarten said, no, keep schools closed. Well, now she's throwing an absolute fit. And I mean, handshaking, she's a real grumpers.
COVID was a terrible time for us. And as you know, because I was on your show a lot and other shows, I wanted schools to be reopened as early as April.
That is a lie. She was caught. We have the emails. I was actually one of the investigative reporters, investigative columnists at the time, who caught her trying to keep schools closed until November of that year. April and November are not right next to each other. She is a liar. She's been called on this so much she's been called out on this, that she's locked her social media posts from people responding to her. She is a liar.
Of 2020, the issue was the fear and the issue was the safety issues. But COVID has really hurt in so many ways. But this has been a Republican talking point for a long time. And
because it was incredibly blatant. When you make a really big category error, when you say something exceptionally stupid, like Americans are deplorable or half of all Americans are garbage, Americans tend to remember that. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. You know, these taglines, read my lips, no new taxes, to throw it over to the Republicans. People remember when you do something particularly stupid. And it really is not helping at all. Now, there are all kinds of Democrat silliness that is coming out in response to the Department of Education executive order because people have started to get the show's email. I'm being sent things from like Democrat congressional offices, like press statements. So Representative John Garamendi, a representative from California's 8th, said, quote, Donald Trump has officially declared war on America's students. His illegal order to eliminate the DOE, not an illegal order. He didn't order the department dismantled. He didn't say it is now closed. And even if he did, that wouldn't be illegal. That's not how that works. Will devastate children and families nationwide from preschool through college. The Department of Education does not control preschool. Trump does not have the authority to dismantle a federal agency by executive order. Yes, he does if the agency was created by executive order and not codified into a federally funded, by law established executive agency. He would still have the authority to fire everyone in the agency because he's the chief executive. But anyway, he says, as the father of public school teachers and grandfather of 14 school-age children, this order is not only illogical, but also personal. I again issue the same challenge that I issued to Democrats on various media platforms today in debate. If you can name one thing, one single statistic that the Department of Education has improved to the benefit of public school students, I will take all of it back. If you can prove that they've improved reading, math, historical understanding, scientific understanding, the argument has been made that it's made special education resources more available, but if you look at the data, it has decreased the quality of SPED education across the country. So, we're going to talk about some of the other Democrat responses to things. Believe it or not, the DOE is not the only thing in the news, and it only gets worse from there. We haven't even got to Chuck Schumer yet, so stick around. We got to pick the radio crew up from commercial. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast. There has been a kind of a conspiracy. That's not a fair way to describe that. There has been a working accusation from those on the right side of the aisle and also those in kind of the more independent side of media, which I was rather kind of surprised to hear today, who have accused the federal judiciary of acting as activists. And the accusation has been that there are left-wing judges that were appointed most likely and usually by Obama or by Biden or by Bill Clinton, occasionally one by George Bush, that have been issuing federal, like universal injunctions across the whole country to counter executive orders and constitutional authority of the President of the United States and the cabinet secretaries and directors in charge of the various executive agencies. And this accusation made by Republicans said, look, this is partisan. This has nothing to do with upholding judicial order. This is simply the left's latest strategy to go out and stymie the Trump administration by whatever means possible. And the left said, no, you're crazy. You're silly. This is all just nonpartisan, whatever. And then Senator Chuck Schumer went on PBS NewsHour, the Senate Minority Leader, the current, I guess you could say, categorical head of the Democratic Party at the moment, and just said it right out in the open, just right out loud for everyone to hear. You've got to hear this.
There are those who believe that we are in real time living through an assault on the constitutional order. Do you believe that we are in a constitutional crisis right now?
Yes, our democracy is at risk because Donald Trump shows that he wishes to violate the laws in many, many different ways. The good news here is we did put 235 judges, progressive judges, judges not under the control of Trump last year on the bench, and they are ruling against Trump time after time after time. And we hope that the appellate courts, when it gets up there in the Supreme Court, will uphold those rulings. They restored the money to NIH.
He's going to now list the various things that these judges have done. I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I want him to repeat what he just admitted on PBS NewsHour. This is Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying the quiet part out loud.
Believe that we are in a constitutional crisis right now?
Yes, our democracy is at risk because Donald Trump shows that he wishes to violate the laws in many, many different ways. The good news here is we did put 235 judges, progressive judges, judges not under the control of Trump last year.
235 progressive judges. Progressive is a political term, boys and girls. And not under the control of Trump, meaning that they don't agree with Trump politically.
On the bench, and they are ruling against Trump time after time after time.
So there you go. The strategy is they're going to rule not against unconstitutional laws, not against unconstitutional executive orders, not against things that violate the law of the land or the U.S. Constitution, the undergirding law of all following laws. But they are political actors. That's not all he did. Chuck Schumer also accidentally got out there and admitted that all of these all of these Republican town halls in which a Republican representative goes and tries to meet with constituents and, say, hey, what are you guys concerned about? What can I do up on Capitol Hill? Republicans have made the assertion over the last couple of weeks that it is Democrats sending people to these town halls to cause a ruckus so that they're not organic, natural, genuine town halls. They're theater props. Chuck Schumer admits that Republicans were right. It's incredible.
We are mobilizing in New York. We have people going to the Republican districts and going after these Republicans who are voting for this and forcing them to either change their vote or face the consequences. This is a long, relentless fight that we fight every day, and I am confident that we will bring Trump's popularity, numbers, and strength down if we keep at it and keep at it and keep at it.
So again, the entire motivation of the Democrat Party, like usual, is all about comms. There's nothing about substance. There's nothing about providing a plan. There's nothing about saying, here are the details of what is harmful to Americans in the present administration. That's what an opposition party is supposed to do. They're supposed to be a check against the chaos. Instead, the Democrats are coming out to say, we're going to intimidate and we're going to cause a ruckus. A fiery but mostly peaceful ruckus, as we're going to talk about here in just a second. And we're going to keep on this particular strategy until it brings down Trump's approval ratings. It's not about the Americans. It's just about going after Republicans. And it's so transparent. It's such an awkward series of moves when you have yet another federal judge today ruling that the Department of Government Efficiency is not allowed to have access to Social Security records. This is after the Department of Government Efficiency team found thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of recipients of Social Security. And these individuals who are receiving this money are over the age of 100. Now, some are saying, oh, this is a clerical error because the records weren't updated. Oh, some are saying this money's not actually being withdrawn. There are conflicting reports from people completely outside of the federal government as to what this is. And that raises a couple of questions. Is that not still an issue? I'm sorry, when do we look at something that is being done incorrectly, an example of waste, fraud, or abuse, and go, okay, but that's not as fraudulent or as abusive, it's just waste. Yeah, and it's still on the taxpayer dime. But the left is going to continually go after Elon Musk because he is exposing how awful federal agencies are on the inside, how they spend your money, and how corrupt they are as they do it. Representative Wesley Hunt, who is one of the best representatives in the House, Representative Hunt of Texas, talked about this today on the floor.
I've seen Democrats on TV for the past week scream, Elon Musk, 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 Musk. It's been quite invigorating, actually. I'm really enjoyed it. And what's funny about it to me is that you're mad at the guy that found the fraud, but not mad at the people that wasted your money. Here in Congress, we clearly can't cut a budget. So I really thank Elon for doing our job for us.
And he's exactly correct, because Congress abdicated its duty and let all the federal agencies take care of it. So Trump appoints an auditor to go in because the federal auditing system, guess what, also sucks. And then this auditor makes recommendations to President Trump and to the heads of the various executive agencies. People go, well, he can't do that. Why? You say, oh, well, because he's unelected. Boy, I got news for you about how the rest of the executive agencies work. There's a lot of unelected people that are currently at work in the United States government in a lot of different ways. So spare me. This hasn't, of course, stopped the left from going around the country, setting Teslas on fire, setting Tesla dealerships on fire, setting Tesla charging stations on fire. And the left has called this a boycott. And no, it's not a boycott. It is, in fact, domestic terrorism. And they don't like that term because they wanted to accuse the right of domestic terrorism when the right was saying men are not women and women are not men. But the actual definition of terrorism is organized, targeted action, usually involving either structural or physical, like person-to-person violence, which is inspired by, associated with, or with the intent of achieving a political aim. In that case, it means this. When you're using violence to achieve a political aim, that's terrorism. That's it. When you are using systematic, controlled violence by means of making a political statement to inspire, in this case, to cause genuine fear or intimidate to achieve a political goal, that's terrorism. That's the definition. We'll talk about this in just a bit for the radio crew. We'll catch you on the other side of the commercial break for some awful tweets. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Now, the left is trying to make the case that this is just like, oh, it's just like a Republican boycott. And we will talk about that in just a bit with the awful tweets. But I want to point out Bill Burr. Bill Burr is a comedian who, I'm going to be honest with you, he just kind of sounded like a grumpy dad, and I like grumpy dad comedians. Sebastian Maniscalco is one of my favorites. And Bill Burr did one of the worst things that a comedian can do. He got high on a political conversion, by which I mean the dude sampled some left-wing politics that he liked and then made it his entire personality. And it's just completely ruined every comedy routine he's ever done. And the proof of this is that they invited him on The View. If you want to see the death of a career, there has not been someone funny pulled onto The View since Norm Macdonald, and they threatened to throw him off. So Hill's Bill Burr going after Elon Musk in what has to be really one of the lamest, like not effective ways.
But is there anybody getting your ire up these days more than usual?
Nerds.
Yeah.
The nerds that own the politician. All these tech nerds that want to build robots because they don't know how to talk to hot women.
Yeah.
They're gonna take over the world. They're gonna take over. They are literally gonna replace us. We're like beta right now, and they're coming out with like the VCR.
So I find this one a little bit weird, because if a Republican was saying that nerds are bad and you know they're mad at us for dating the hot ladies and everything, wouldn't like The View ladies be going after a statement like that as really sexist? And wait a minute, people making technological advances are bad? All right, okay, I guess. Bill Burr, ladies and gentlemen.
And I think Elon has got the rockets going because they realize there's other Earths out there, and they're gonna trash this one, and because they don't have any concern for it, and they're gonna move on to the next Earth, and you know, everybody's gonna be standing down here with your blue and red ties, going, "Wait a minute, I was on your side," and they're just gonna leave.
But you were talking about death in your set. Do they not realize that they're going to die? These people. They don't realize that eventually everybody dies.
What? You're going to die, so, you know, don't try to advance, like, technology in society. And I'm sorry, wait a minute. He wants to trash the Earth so we can leave it. Elon Musk runs the largest electric car manufacturer on Earth. If you want to talk about, like, a guy who's trying to be environmentally responsible, again, EVs not necessarily environmentally responsible, but that is the idea behind them. Isn't he one of the people that supposedly cares a lot about the environment? Again, you have to have a bit of intelligence to produce a bit of decent comedy. And it's really awkward to watch a man willingly throw that away because the dude's a simp, which is a millennial term for basically bowing down for a really mediocre woman. Sorry. A simp is any guy who basically throws away all of his principles and any intelligence that he has because he's desperate for action. So for those of our audience members who haven't ever understood the term, there you go. Now you're catching with the word simp. So we're learning all kinds of things here today on the Tony Kinnett Cast. I don't see how the left is going to form a coherent strategy by the time we get to midterms, when they are so desperately glued to Elon Musk. They're so desperately glued to the Department of Government Efficiency. Again, it's not like Elon Musk is running around saying, you know what we need to do? We need to, I don't know, something insane. You know, we need to set the ocean on fire. You know, we need to nuke Canada. I mean, I don't know, maybe the Canucks deserve it. That's not even the kind of policy that like Elon Musk is pushing in the administration. He's like, hey, I don't think we should be sending money for transgender comic books. And that's kind of hit. And the left is losing it over it. Oh, man. Well, we've got some awful tweets coming up next, and you guys send those over to us every week so that we can just collectively suffer at the stupid things that are published. And this week is a doozy. We'll be back in just a second. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
Awful tweets, the ones that no one ever deletes. Awful tweets on the Tony Kinnett Show.
On 93 WIPC.
Welcome to Awful Tweets, and that's where Jerry Lopez, at Indie Spanglish over on X, we did this back when the show was only on WIBC. We would take some of the awful social media posts from around the internet that y'all would send in and say, isn't this ridiculous? And then we would suffer through those on air together. So Jerry Lopez, how you doing, man?
Not too bad. Hey, March Madness. There's also always social media madness.
That's right. And, just since we're out here talking about the important things in life, I do just want to make this very clear. Go Purdue, making sure that the Indiana team gets as far as possible. Wait, did they lose to High Point this afternoon? They better not have. What a terrible time to check live on air.
They won.
Oh, they won. Okay. I was writing the show. I got very scared. Well, let's get over to some awful tweets before I get worried about my bracket. You can't say those things while we're on the air. All right. First awful tweet tonight that it was sent in to us is it hurts me physically. It's from the New York Post. A sexpert reveals why polyamory is more than just dating around and how monogamy leaves no wiggle room. What do you think about that one, Jer?
I don't know where this lady got her degree to be a sexpert from, but it makes absolutely no sense. Obviously, polyamory is more than just dating around, but by its very definition. The problem is most of these people are having intimate moments with more than one partner, which leads to other issues down the road. I would think that monogamy leads to a lot of wiggle room and probably a lot better moments. This expert probably should be fired.
I'm going to say that the no wiggle room, that's kind of one of the points of monogamy is, anywho, moving right along. So one of the accounts claiming to be anonymous, this hacking group, and is probably just some basement dwelling goober, says he's making fun of I guess people who are unhappy with, the domestic terror currently going around. He says, "How dare you attack Tesla? Those poor cars have feelings too. Why would anyone do this?" And says, "Here is loser Kid Rock shooting cans of Bud Light because he was mad at a trans person being on a can of it." It shows Kid Rock shooting some Bud Light in his backyard and then flipping off the camera. What, is this doing anything for you, Jer?
I mean, it's making me wonder what happened to Anonymous, right? This used to be a group that would stand with the people and release information about bad governments and stuff. And now whoever is running this account is equating Kid Rock purchasing, by all accounts, Bud Lights and then shooting them to people randomly blowing up your Tesla. That's a horrible comparison. Doesn't even make sense.
Just if we're going to go ahead and put things right out here in front of the people, if you go buy a Tesla, your own Tesla, and then you take it out to your back car, you set it on fire, that's not domestic terror. That's you destroying your own property. Look, if conservatives would have showed up to Target or showed up to the liquor store and shot up Bud Light or shot up the tuck-friendly swimsuits for kids in Target or whatever, well, then that would have been domestic terror. That would have, correct. But that didn't happen. A boycott is not domestic terror. Moving on. I sent this one to you, man. This one's from me. ABC News with a picture of one of the Venezuelan gang members all tatted up being sent out to El Salvador. They said, quote, "Many of the non-citizens who were deported pursuant to the Alien Enemies Act on Saturday did not have criminal records in the United States," an ICE official said in a sworn filing overnight. What do you think about that?
Yeah, newsflash ABC News. They probably didn't have any records here in the United States, which is part of the process, right? it didn't matter. They had records back there, and Venezuela didn't want half these people back.
Just for kicks and giggles here, I'm imagining somebody crossing the border illegally, and on the back they've got one of those a paper filing cabinet paper boxes, and it's what do you got? Oh, these are my legal records stating what gangs I was affiliated with.
These are my records, yeah.
All right, this next one's from.
I mean, imagine somebody coming over the border and be like, "I've never been in trouble. Look me up on your system."
Ah, yes.
Obviously.
So, here is another person defending domestic terror. Gordon Johnson, Democrat pundit, says, "If burning Teslas make you furious, but watching thousands of federal workers get stripped of their jobs, healthcare, and pensions doesn't move you, you're the problem." Tell me, Jerry, is domestic terror the same as someone being laid off from my tax dollars?
No, not at all. I mean, and to be honest with you, it's not like they just turn around and just getting rid of everybody. We're cutting waste, which is what we wanted to do, and that's completely different than going around attacking Teslas. You know what the funny thing is, though? A lot of people forget. Most of the people that bought Teslas were one of those, climate-friendly people, and most of those people are on the left. So how many of those guys have Teslas now that are being targeted by the people that they even support?
So this next one is special just special for so many reasons. This is a post from the Yemeni military, is what it claims to be over on X, and it's got like a little this then this. So like you got Native American, indigenous people, and then the picture of Donald Trump. It says illegal immigrants, and then it's got a picture of some people who look like they're from Africa. It says indigenous people. And then it's got a picture of a white guy and it says illegal immigrants. And then it's got a picture of an Arabic guy and it says indigenous people. And then it's got a picture of Benjamin Netanyahu and it says, illegal immigrants. Do you sense the irony of an Arabic Muslim person calling anyone else an illegal immigrant or a colonizer? Like, does that I'm not sure Alanis Morissette could write a song that ironic.
Hey, this one is hard to even get into. You seem like you want it. Have the floor, bub.
I mean, okay, just a quick fun history lesson. There were these things called the caliphates, and the Islamic faith swept through the entirety of Europe and North Africa and all the way invading into India, which is a very cool historical study about why the Mongol horde didn't affect India because they were being invaded by Islamic caliphate. So look, you're going to get into the argument as to whether, who's native, who's illegal, who's allowed to be or who's not. Maybe don't be the literal most colonizing, like genocidal historical group, meaning Shia Islamic fundamentalists in history. Just a little fun fact here. Maybe not that one.
Hashtag the more you know.
Good gracious. Okay, this one, we've got you, though. This is from Stu Peters. He's a pundit, I'll say on the right. He says, the whole, quote, MAGA we love Israel crowd sure has been quiet today after finding out the Jews were involved in the assassination of JFK. What?
I mean, the MAGA crowd's worried about America. I don't know why that's so confusing. We wanted to stop the war in the Ukraine. We want to focus on the United States right now. We have so many issues to worry about. Yeah, the information is good. All the information that they're releasing, obviously we're still waiting for Epstein. I don't know if we'll ever get that. But we got more problems like the economy and shutting down wars across the world.
I got to say, we did look through a lot of the documents with AI and found 2 references to the Israeli intelligence service, 2 in 80,000 pages. The KGB was mentioned several thousand times. Spare me. One last one here. This one's just for you. And for those who are not able to see this beautiful picture of the author of this piece.
Cruella DeVille. That's what she looks like.
It's from Channel 4 News in Canada. It says, toxic masculinity is, quote, joyless and depressing, end quote, says Caitlin Moran, whose hair looks like a dust bunny. When they criticize masculinity, why do they always pick just the weirdest looking people to do it? I mean, find somebody that looks put together.
Right. Hey, I mean, it's kind of interesting that Caitlyn identifies as a toxic male because she can tell you exactly what it feels like. Right?
I know
it makes no sense. How about people stop speaking for others?
It looks like she's about to say, "You didn't file your paperwork, Mike Wazowski." Always watching.
She does.
Jerry Lopez, Indy Spanglish on X. Thanks for another great week of awful tweets, man. I'm ready for some really horrible videos. You sent one in. We don't have time to get to it tonight. So we're going to bring you back probably here in a day or so to talk about Alec Baldwin's wife. It's going to be a hoot.
Oh, the greatest moment in history happened this week. You won't want to miss that. Couldn't have happened to a better person.
Couldn't have happened. All right, we'll send the radio crew over to commercial. Take care, Jared. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. All right, folks. As we close down the social media side of awful tweets, I wanted to take just a brief moment here in the sunshine to talk about a moment that we weren't able to hit that was just quite precious to me. something that I really wasn't quite expecting that we were going to get into in at least in this particular news cycle, but that has happened all the same. There are more and more and more of the late night talk shows that are trying to, like, tongue in cheek say that it was actually okay for, the acts of domestic terrorism, the firebombing of things around the country. Again, the firebombing, and that word doesn't resonate with people. This was sent in as an awful tweet. We can't count it necessarily in that because it's more show than tweet, but I would like to show it to you all the same.
Jim, they're taking to the streets or the parking lots.
Tonight, the FBI and ATF now investigating multiple cases of possible arson targeting Teslas and Cybertrucks.
So this is on The Daily Show with Comedy Central, The Daily Show individuals. You can see as the news reports scroll across of the acts of domestic terror, the fire bombings and things, you can see and hear the people in the crowd just cheering for it. Just like no bones about it.
The parking lots.
Tonight, the FBI and ATF now investigating multiple cases of possible arson targeting Teslas and Cybertrucks.
This dramatic video shows multiple cars in flames. Police say the attacker used Molotov cocktails. It's the latest in more than a dozen instances of arson and vandalism targeting Tesla.
The same suspect shot more Teslas with a gun. Tesla Cybertrucks were set on fire in Kansas City, and earlier this month, shots fired at a Tesla dealership in Oregon. Cybertrucks on fire in Seattle.
I never want to hear anything else about January 6th again. I don't want to hear another word. You've got people that are firebombing, throwing actual Molotov cocktails into dealerships. They don't know if there's anybody in the dealership or not. Into Cybertrucks. Again, they don't know if there's anyone in the vehicle or not. The windows to the Cybertruck are more often than not tinted. They're dark. Absolutely ridiculous. Small correction. Channel 4 is in the UK, is in England. It's not in Canada, and that's because producer Daniel was about to break down the door of the studio if I didn't make sure that was particularly corrected. Just if you were going to claim that words, that saying things like men are not women are stochastic terrorism, that they're terrorism, because that incites violence somehow. And then you turn around and endorse and clap for and cheer arson, like actual burning down of property. Again, it's not, vandalism is one thing. It is. I mean, you go out, you key a car, you scratch something, you spray paint something. That's bad. But that's not going to cause anyone to die, right? That's the destruction of property. Fire is dangerous. You're not supposed to play with fire. The left has lost it, and apparently the producers have put together a special segment for me to suffer through even more of the left's nonsense up next. We're going to bring the radio crew back from commercial. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
This next segment is, we're calling it Political Memes and Suffering. I have got a couple of new team members since the show is growing, and we're very thankful for new individuals on the team. One of these people is Reeve Wormus over at the Daily Signal, who has taken it upon herself to send me really, funny things that she thinks that I will find referential, and then really awkward, awful, hurts me, like strong inflammation of the gut, ulcers, pure nonsense. We're going to start off a little bit easy here. She says that these get, that they start out really nice and I'll enjoy them, and they get worse as they go along, and these are not labeled. These are not labeled at all. So I don't really know what I'm clicking on here, and that's what concerns me. So let's take a look here.
How are you doing the job differently than Kamala did it? Well, I don't have 4 shots of vodka before every meeting. That's one way I think that Kamala really tried to bring herself into the role is these word salads. And
So the first clip is one I've seen, thank God. It's the best looking vice president that we've ever had in the country. That would be Vice President Vance, who was on a kind of a radio audio interview and saying that, Kamala Harris can't do a meeting without, a couple of shots of vodka, which I will be fair to Reeve, because I know the next clip that's coming does in fact remind me of this classic Vine.
2 shots of vodka.
Fantastic. I love it. All right, this next one is unlabeled, and I am concerned.
Hi, I'm a scout. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm an interdisciplinary major at UBC. I'm in my last semester. My primary thematic focus is decolonizing academia and public knowledge systems, and my secondary thematic focus is biocultural and linguistic futurity.
For those who don't know what that means, can you give us a quick rundown?
Yeah, basically what I focus on is the promises that the institution has made and also the emergence of indigenous ways of knowing and being across the disciplines, and I feature in a lot of stuff like language revitalization, or the emergent vitality of languages rather, and just kind of a bunch of stuff. I've taken courses in over 20 departments, so
okay.
Yeah.
Hang on. What was this person's name again?
Hi, I'm a scout. I use they, them pronouns, and...
Okay, so this actually reminds me, I want you to picture out there, dear audience, what this individual with they, them pronouns looks like, who's an interdisciplinary, they being indigenous ways study major. And tell me, does it remind you of Titan from Megamind, who also looks a lot like
Please don't do this. I know there's still good in you, Hal.
You're so naive, Roxy. You see the good in everybody, even when it's not there. You're living a fantasy. There is no Easter Bunny, there is no Tooth Fairy, and there is no Queen of England.
It's one for one, the exact same. All right, that hurt me. I'll admit it. That was indeed exceptionally painful. This last one is supposed to be the caption she put with it is chef's kiss. So I'm a little concerned.
Hey, halal boy. Assalamu alaikum, sister. What are you doing here? What does it look like I'm doing? I'm studying the art of patience. You can't eat for another 4 hours. Oh, Ramadan, the month of patience.
So it's an ad. Hold on, I gotta look at this again. What's the account that's on this? So there is a teen kid sitting there, and he's in some Islamic garb, and he's sitting there with a bunch of food in front of him, because in Ramadan you can't break your fast. He's just sitting there chilling at the burger factory, and that .ca means it's Canadian. There's a big shock there. And this is a kid, right? This is a guy who's like, I don't know, looks like 12 or so. And then there's like this adult woman that they have come up and start hitting on him, which is a little weird, one might say. And then, Ramadan, da-don. That's fantastic. Yeah, you're right, it did hurt me. Why? The weird social media strategies that some of these people have to simp for the weirdest social gooberishness. It's like Dylan Mulvaney for Canada. In America, we have our trans people drink beer. In Canada, they have their, I guess, Islamic creators make burger ads. It makes perfect sense to me. People need help. They really do. I mean, does this, hold on. We've got another one. I didn't even realize we had another one here. All right, let's watch it.
Wouldn't be surprised if we soon see an executive order mandating that all American families have to buy or own a Tesla. As Toronto Dump went on social media yesterday to call the boycott illegal. The boycott, by the way, is worldwide. This is a mandate. They're always talking about a mandate. This is a mandate from the American people and the people of the earth.
You look like somebody that really struggles with a mandate.
To be honest, I once considered buying an electric car like a Tesla, but the Republicans talked me out of it. Like, I saw meme after meme on the internet of the power grid going down and us libs in our electric cars stranded on the side of the road.
That is true. That is the key reason I'm not currently owning a Tesla.
While they and their diesel-powered and gas-powered trucks,
God bless this American country. Drill, baby, drill.
Hopped up on testosterone drugs.
That's right. Hopped up on testosterone. Amen.
Drove by and laughed at us. So they really talked me out of it. I don't know.
I hate videos when you start saying, well, hey, everyone, it's a mandate. I do like the claim that Donald Trump is going to require everyone to own a Tesla. So he's become a Huey Long of Louisiana. You know, a Diet Coke in every refrigerator and a Tesla in every garage. It's going to be great, like you've never seen before. I'm here for it. The future is now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to Reeve for collecting those videos. Hurt my very soul. We'll catch you guys tomorrow for some more breaking news and some more pain, I'm sure. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC. Take care.